Adama's childhood was filled with hardship and emotional pain, and she learned at a young age how to be strong despite the challenges she faced. When her father remarried, his second wife, Kwesi, turned out to be a cruel stepmother. From the moment Kwesi entered their home, Adama's life changed for the worse. Kwesi never treated her with love or kindness. Instead, she forced Adama to do all the household chores, from washing dishes to cleaning the floors, while her own daughter, Lindiwe, was treated like a princess, free from any responsibilities. Adama felt the sting of being treated like an outsider in her own family. Every day, she faced verbal insults and emotional neglect from Kwesi, who made sure to remind her that she wasn't wanted. Even her father, the man who was supposed to protect her, turned a blind eye to the mistreatment, leaving Adama feeling abandoned and unloved. She often found herself crying late at night, wishing for things to be different, but at the same time, she knew she couldn't let the pain break her. As the years went by, Adama learned to rely on herself, keeping her dreams and hopes for a better future alive in her heart. Even though Kwesi's cruelty wore her down at times, Adama's spirit remained unbroken. She focused on her studies, determined to escape the toxic environment and build a life of her own. Deep inside, she knew that no matter how bad things got, she had the strength to rise above it all. Little did she know, the journey she had been enduring was leading her toward a life that would one day make all the pain she'd suffered worthwhile. Kwesi, Adama's stepmother, treated her unfairly from the very start. Kwesi always favored her own daughter, Lindiwe, and made sure she never had to do any chores around the house. Instead, Adama was forced to take on all the hard work, from cleaning the house to cooking the meals. No matter how tired Adama was, Kwesi would always demand more from her. She had to wake up early and work late into the night, while Lindiwe was allowed to relax and enjoy herself. But it wasn't just the chores that made Adama's life hard. Kwesi was cruel with her words too. She would often call Adama names and tell her she wasn't good enough. The constant verbal abuse left Adama feeling worthless and sad. She longed for her father to stand up for her, but he never did. Instead, he seemed to ignore the way Kwesi treated her, making Adama feel even more alone. His silence only added to the pain, and Adama felt like she didn't matter to him at all. The emotional neglect was just as hurtful as the physical work. Kwesi never showed Adama any love or care, and her father didn't offer comfort or support. It seemed like no one cared about Adama's feelings or well-being. She tried to stay strong and keep going, but it was hard. Every day felt like a struggle. Despite the cruel treatment, Adama held on to the hope that things would get better one day, even if it seemed impossible. She knew that she deserved better, and she dreamed of a life where she was valued and loved. Despite the cruelty she faced at home, Adama refused to let her painful childhood hold her back. Every day, she endured the harsh treatment from her stepmother Kwesi and the neglect from her father, but she found solace in her studies. School was the one place where she could escape from the emotional abuse, and it became her safe space. Adama poured herself into her books, using her education as a way to build a future far away from the misery she lived in at home. She woke up early and stayed up late, studying hard, even when she was exhausted from doing all the household chores. While her classmates had time to play and relax, Adama used every spare moment to learn. She dreamed of a life where she could make her own decisions and live without fear. Her determination paid off when she received a letter that would change her life forever. Adama had been awarded a full scholarship to a prestigious university in the city, a dream she had longed for but never truly believed could happen. The news was overwhelming. It felt like all her hard work had finally been recognized, and for the first time in her life, she felt like she was worth something. The scholarship was not just an opportunity for a better education, it was a chance to leave her painful past behind. Adama realized that this was her moment to break free and begin a new chapter, one where she could chase her dreams without the weight of her past holding her down. As she packed her belongings and prepared to leave, Adama felt a mix of emotions. She was excited about the future, but also a little nervous. Leaving her childhood home meant saying goodbye to everything she had known, even though it was filled with pain. But the thought of stepping into a world full of possibilities made her feel alive with hope. She knew that this was the start of something much bigger than herself, a chance to prove that no matter how difficult the past had been, she could overcome it and create a life she was proud of. With her heart full of dreams and her mind set on the future, Adama moved to the city, leaving behind the years of cruelty and stepping into the promise of a better life. In the city, Adama was determined to build a new life for herself, far away from the pain and hardship of her childhood. She worked harder than ever to make the most of the opportunity she had been given. Every day she woke up early and studied late into the night, determined to succeed. The city was big and full of new experiences, but Adama knew that she had to stay focused on her goals. She wanted to prove that no matter where she came from, she could achieve something great. Her hard work paid off. After years of studying, Adama graduated from university with honors, something she had always dreamed of but never thought would be possible. Her professors and classmates were impressed by her dedication and intelligence. It wasn't just her grades that stood out. It was her work ethic, her drive, and the way she never gave up, no matter how hard things got. People started to notice her, and soon she became well known in the professional world for her ability to get things done with both skill and grace. As Adama's career began to grow, she met Thabo, a wealthy businessman who was known for his kindness and success. Thabo was immediately drawn to Adama's strength and independence. He admired the way she had overcome so many obstacles and built such a promising future for herself. Thabo saw something special in her, a woman who was not only smart and capable, but also strong in spirit. He was captivated by her determination and the way she carried herself with confidence. Over time, Thabo and Adama grew close. They spent more time together, and Thabo found himself falling in love with her. He admired her for the way she stayed true to herself and her values, no matter what. Adama, in turn, began to trust Thabo and feel a deep connection with him. For the first time in a long while, Adama felt truly seen and appreciated, not for the work she did, but for who she was as a person. Thabo's love for her was different from the way anyone had treated her before, and it made her feel worthy in a way she had never felt before. Adama and Thabo's love had grown over the years, and the day they decided to get married was a moment of deep happiness for both of them. After everything Adama had been through in her life, growing up with cruelty and emotional neglect, finding someone like Thabo was a dream come true. Thabo, with his caring nature, had supported her in ways she never thought possible. He saw her for who she truly was, not just her accomplishments, but the strength and resilience that had carried her through her painful past. When Thabo proposed, it was a moment that took Adama by surprise, but in the best way. They were sitting together in a quiet, peaceful spot that held special meaning for both of them, and Thabo asked her to marry him. It wasn't a grand, over-the-top proposal, but it was sincere, thoughtful, and filled with love. Adama, overwhelmed with emotions, said yes without hesitation, knowing this was the man who had always supported her, loved her unconditionally, and made her feel valued. The wedding planning began, and every detail was carefully chosen to reflect the love they shared. Adama wanted this day to be everything she had ever dreamed of. Elegant, joyful, and full of meaning. It wasn't just a wedding to her. It was the closing of one chapter of her life and the beautiful beginning of another. They chose a breathtaking venue, a grand hall with tall windows that let in soft golden sunlight. The place was filled with the smell of fresh flowers and the sound of soft music playing in the background. The decorations were simple yet elegant, with white and gold accents that made the entire room glow. On their wedding day, Adama looked like a vision of grace and beauty in her flowing white dress. Her hair was carefully styled, and her eyes sparkled with joy and excitement. Thabo, standing at the altar, could barely take his eyes off her. He wore a sharp, classic suit that made him look every bit the gentleman he was. The ceremony began, and everything felt magical. Adama walked down the aisle, heart racing with emotion, while friends and family looked on with pride and love. As Adama and Thabo exchanged vows, they promised to stand by each other through every challenge, to support and care for each other, no matter what life threw their way. Adama couldn't help but think about how far she had come, from a young girl with dreams of a better life, to a woman who had found true love and happiness. The vows they made weren't just words. They were a reflection of the deep bond they shared and the bright future they were about to build together. The celebration that followed was full of laughter, love, and joy. Friends and family shared beautiful stories, toasted to the couple's happiness, and danced the night away. It was a celebration, not just of their marriage, but of all the obstacles they had overcome to get to this moment. For Adama, this day was a powerful reminder that her strength had led her to a life filled with love, respect, and endless possibilities. As she looked around the room, surrounded by the people who supported her, Adama couldn't help but feel incredibly grateful. Her dreams had come true, and this was only the beginning of a bright new chapter in her life with Thabo by her side. After their wedding, Adama and Thabo started a new life together. Thabo took Adama to his beautiful mansion, which was much different from the home she grew up in. His house was large and elegant, with rooms filled with soft furniture, beautiful decorations, and peaceful spaces where they could relax. It was a place where she could finally feel safe and loved, nothing like the harsh, cold atmosphere she had experienced as a child. In Thabo's home, Adama was treated with kindness and respect every day. Thabo made sure to always listen to her, support her, and show her how much he cared. He respected her opinions and included her in all decisions, big or small. It was a place where she felt appreciated, where her voice mattered, and where she didn't have to do all the hard work alone. There were no cruel words, no harsh demands, only love and understanding. Adama was amazed at how different life was now. The mansion was peaceful and full of warmth, and she could enjoy the luxury of a home where she didn't have to worry about being mistreated. For the first time in her life, she could sleep through the night without worrying about what the next day would bring. She had a loving husband who cherished her, and she had the freedom to explore her own dreams without the weight of her painful past holding her back. It was hard for Adama to believe that the little girl who had once been mistreated was now living in a beautiful home, loved and respected by the person she married. The change was overwhelming at times, but it was a change she had longed for. Each day in the mansion was a reminder of how far she had come and how much she had earned her happiness. In Thabo's home, Adama found the peace and love she had always dreamed of. A true home where she could finally feel at ease and truly belong. One morning, as Adama walked through the halls of her elegant mansion, overseeing the household staff and making sure everything was running smoothly, she suddenly stopped in her tracks. She noticed a woman hunched over, scrubbing the floors with a slow, tired motion. At first, Adama didn't think much of it, just another member of the staff doing their work. But as she drew closer, something in the woman's posture seemed strangely familiar. When the woman looked up, Adama's heart stopped. It was Kwesi, her stepmother. Kwesi, the woman who had made Adama's childhood a nightmare, was now cleaning the floors of her own home, looking frail and worn. Adama couldn't believe her eyes. She had never expected to see Kwesi again, let alone in such a humbling position. The woman who had once treated her with cruelty, forcing her to do all the chores, was now on her hands and knees, scrubbing the floor like any other servant in the house. Kwesi's face, which had once been sharp and cold, now looked tired, older, and filled with regret. Her clothes were simple and worn, far from the elegant dresses she used to wear. She looked nothing like the woman Adama remembered, the one who had always been in control, demanding, and unkind. The sight was so overwhelming that Adama stood frozen for a moment, her heart racing with a mix of emotions. On one hand, she felt a rush of anger and hurt, remembering all the pain Kwesi had caused her, the cruel words, the constant demands, the emotional neglect. It all came flooding back in an instant. How could Kwesi have done that to her? How could she have treated her like she was nothing? But at the same time, as Adama looked at Kwesi in this humbling, pitiful state, something else stirred inside her. A part of her felt pity. Kwesi, who had once had all the power, now seemed so small and weak. The woman who had controlled her life, made her feel worthless, and pushed her down, was now working under her roof, doing the very chores Adama had once been forced to do. It was as if the tables had completely turned. Kwesi was no longer the strong, scary figure she had once been. She was just another servant, struggling to make ends meet. Adama's thoughts swirled as she watched Kwesi quietly continue to scrub the floor, not daring to look up. It was a strange moment, filled with confusion and deep emotion. Part of Adama wanted to confront her, to demand an explanation, to tell Kwesi how much she had hurt her. But another part of her felt a sense of closure, as if seeing Kwesi in this state was a reminder that the past could no longer control her. The powerful, cruel stepmother was no longer a threat. Instead, she was just a woman facing her own fall from grace. The sight of Kwesi, now broken and humbled, left Adama with a complicated feeling. Her past and present collided in that moment, and Adama realized that she had come a long way from the helpless, mistreated girl she had once been. Now, she had the power to choose how to deal with the woman who had shaped so much of her painful history. It was a turning point, one that would challenge Adama to face her past in a way she never had before. Seeing Kwesi again was like opening a door to a past that Adama had tried so hard to forget. As she stood there in shock, memories of her childhood flooded back, each one sharper than the last. She remembered waking up at dawn to clean the house while Kwesi and Lindiwe, Kwesi's daughter, slept peacefully. She could still hear Kwesi's harsh voice ordering her to scrub the floors, cook meals, and wash clothes without a single moment of rest. The pain of those days felt fresh again. Adama recalled how Kwesi never had a kind word for her. Instead, there were only cruel insults, as if Adama could never do anything right. Even when she was tired, hungry, or sick, Kwesi showed no mercy. Adama was treated more like a servant than a member of the family. Her father, who should have protected her, stayed silent, turning a blind eye to her suffering. That hurt the most, knowing her own father had abandoned her emotionally. There were nights when Adama cried herself to sleep, wondering why Kwesi hated her so much. She often questioned what she had done to deserve such treatment. But even through the tears and pain, she held on to hope. Her schoolwork became her escape. When she was reading or solving problems in class, she felt free, even if just for a little while. The dream of one day leaving that house and building a better life kept her going. Now, standing in her beautiful home, seeing Kwesi scrubbing the very floors she once forced Adama to clean, the past and present collided in a way Adama hadn't expected. The sight of Kwesi, frail and defeated, was almost unreal. Adama felt a storm of emotions, anger, sadness, and even confusion. She wanted to scream at Kwesi, to ask why she had been so cruel. But at the same time, Adama realized something important. She wasn't that helpless little girl anymore. She had survived, grown stronger, and built a life filled with love, success, and respect. The flood of memories was painful, but it also reminded Adama of how far she had come. The hardships of her past had shaped her, but they didn't define her. Kwesi's presence stirred up old wounds, but it also showed Adama just how strong and resilient she had become. Thabo noticed right away that something was wrong with Adama. Her usually calm and confident face was filled with distress. He gently placed his hand on her shoulder and asked, "What's wrong, my love?" Adama struggled to find the words. How could she explain the sudden wave of painful memories seeing Kwesi had brought back? The woman who had tormented her during childhood was now scrubbing the floors of her home. When Adama finally told Thabo the truth, his eyes darkened with concern. He couldn't believe that this frail servant woman was the same person who had caused his wife so much pain. "Do you want me to fire her?" Thabo asked firmly. "You don't have to see her face ever again if you don't want to." His tone was protective and decisive. Thabo loved Adama deeply and couldn't bear the thought of her reliving those awful memories. Adama stood silently, torn between two strong feelings. On one hand, the idea of firing Kwesi seemed fair. After all, wasn't it justice for the years of suffering Adama had endured? She remembered every cruel word, every command, every moment when Kwesi made her feel small and worthless. Revenge would be so easy. She could finally make Kwesi feel powerless, just as Adama had once felt. But another part of her hesitated. Adama had built a life based on hard work, strength, and compassion. She was not the same helpless girl anymore. She had grown beyond the bitterness of her past, and firing Kwesi out of revenge would make her no better than the woman who had once mistreated her. Adama thought about the frail, tired face she had seen earlier. Kwesi no longer looked like the powerful, cruel woman she once knew. She looked broken and defeated. Maybe life had already punished her enough. Adama's heart was heavy with the decision she had to make. Should she hold on to the pain and seek revenge, or rise above it and choose mercy? The emotional struggle was real, but Adama knew that whatever choice she made would define how she truly wanted to live her life. Thabo's offer was kind. But Adama realized that this was a decision only she could make. Adama knew she had to face Kwesi, but not with anger or hatred. She thought deeply about what kind of person she wanted to be. Life had already taught her that true strength was not found in revenge, but in choosing dignity and kindness. Holding on to bitterness would only weigh her down. She decided it was time to confront Kwesi, but she would do it with grace, not as the scared girl Kwesi had once bullied, but as the confident woman Adama had become. The next day, Adama called for a meeting with the household staff. Everyone gathered in the spacious living room, curious about why their employer had asked to see them. Tabo stood quietly by her side, offering silent support. Adama took a deep breath, steadying herself. She had prepared for this moment, and now it was time to speak. Kwesi stood at the back, nervously wringing her hands. Her posture was different now, humble, uncertain, and filled with guilt. She seemed to know that the past had finally caught up with her. Adama's heart pounded as she looked at the woman who had once controlled her life, but instead of feeling rage, she felt calm. "I know many of you don't know my story," Adama began, her voice steady but gentle. "But I grew up in a home where I was treated unfairly. I was forced to do all the work, and I was never shown kindness or love by someone who should have protected me." Her eyes briefly met Kwesi's, who lowered her gaze to the floor, ashamed. Adama continued, "That person is here today. Kwesi, the woman who made my childhood difficult, is now working in this house." Gasps filled the room as the staff exchanged shocked glances. They couldn't believe that this frail woman had once been so cruel to their strong, kind employer. "I want everyone to know," Adama said firmly, "that I am not here to punish anyone. I am not that little girl anymore. I have built a life I am proud of, and I choose to live with peace in my heart." She looked directly at Kwesi and added, "I will not treat you the way you treated me. I have decided to forgive you." Kwesi's eyes filled with tears as she realized the weight of Adama's words. The courage it took for Adama to stand there, without bitterness or anger, was extraordinary. The staff watched in awe, inspired by her strength and compassion. By the end of the meeting, Adama had not only released herself from the chains of her painful past, but also set an example for everyone present. It was a moment of courage, dignity, and grace. Proof that true power lies in forgiveness, not revenge. The room was heavy with silence after Adama's powerful words. The household staff stood in awe, their expressions a mix of shock and admiration. Many had expected anger or punishment, but what they were witnessing was something far more extraordinary, a display of compassion and strength beyond what anyone imagined. Kwesi, standing at the back, was trembling visibly. Her face, worn by years of hardship and guilt, was now wet with tears. She looked fragile, broken, and humbled by the weight of her past actions. The cruel, commanding woman Adama had once feared was gone, replaced by someone filled with shame and regret. Kwesi's lips quivered, and she struggled to speak, but no words came out. Adama took a deep breath and walked toward her stepmother. Memories flooded her mind. The countless mornings when Kwesi would wake her up before dawn, ordering her to clean every corner of the house. The insults that made her feel small and worthless. The nights she cried herself to sleep, wondering why she wasn't loved. All of it had shaped who she was today. But standing in that grand house, surrounded by people who respected her, Adama realized one thing. She had won. Life had given her back her dignity and strength, and she no longer needed revenge to prove it. "Kwesi," Adama said, her voice calm yet steady. "I remember everything you did to me. The chores, the insults, the way you treated me like I was nothing. For a long time, I carried that pain with me. But today, I choose to let it go." Kwesi's knees wobbled, and she fell to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. "I am so sorry, Adama," she managed to choke out. "I was wrong. I was bitter, jealous, and cruel. I hurt you when I should have cared for you. I don't deserve your forgiveness." Adama's heart ached at the sight of the once proud woman brought to tears. A part of her had wanted this moment for years, to see Kwesi broken and remorseful. But now that it was happening, she felt no joy, only pity. "Maybe you don't deserve it," Adama admitted softly. "But I'm choosing to forgive you anyway. Not for your sake, but for mine. I deserve to be free from the pain of the past." The room was so quiet that even the soft rustle of leaves outside could be heard. The household staff exchanged glances, moved by Adama's words. Many of them had never seen such grace in the face of betrayal. Adama then did something even more unexpected. "Kwesi," she continued, "you don't have to work here as a servant anymore. I am offering you a chance to live with dignity and comfort. You can stay here, but not as a maid. You will be treated with respect." There was a collective gasp from the staff. No one had anticipated this act of kindness. Kwesi looked up, disbelief written all over her tear-streaked face. I don't understand," she stammered. "Why would you do this for me?" "Because life is about second chances," Adama said gently. "I had to fight for mine, and now I'm giving you one too. What you do with it is up to you." Kwesi collapsed into sobs once more, overwhelmed by Adama's mercy. "Thank you," she whispered brokenly. "I will spend the rest of my life trying to be better." Adama nodded. "That's all I ask." The household staff watched in awe, many with tears in their eyes. They had just witnessed something rare and beautiful, a woman choosing love and forgiveness over bitterness and revenge. Adama's courage and compassion became an inspiring story for everyone present. She had shown that true strength lies in grace, and that forgiveness, no matter how difficult, has the power to heal even the deepest wounds. Kwesi sat nervously in the living room, her eyes cast downward. The grand space, filled with beautiful furniture and soft golden light, felt overwhelming for a woman who now lived with such deep regret. She wrung her hands together, struggling to find the right words. Across from her sat Adama, calm and composed, her presence commanding but warm. Kwesi knew she had no right to ask for forgiveness after all the pain she had caused, but she had to try. Taking a deep, shaky breath, Kwesi began to speak. "Adama," she said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "I never thought I would be sitting here, asking for your forgiveness. I don't even know where to start." Her lips trembled as tears filled her eyes. "I treated you terribly. I was cruel, selfish, and heartless, and you didn't deserve any of it." Adama listened silently, giving Kwesi the space to continue. Memories from her childhood flickered through her mind, the harsh orders, the endless chores, the insults that cut deeper than any wound. Yet here they were, years later, in completely different roles. Life had changed, and so had Kwesi. Kwesi's voice broke as she spoke. "When your mother passed away, I thought I could replace her and control the house. But I was never satisfied. Your father's love for you and the memory of your mother made me bitter and jealous. I took out my frustration on you, forcing you to do work no child should have to do. I belittled you, insulted you, and made you feel like you were worthless." She paused, wiping her face with trembling hands. "And for that, I am deeply sorry." Adama's heart ached as she listened. It was strange to hear Kwesi admit to things she had long tried to forget, but there was something raw and real in Kwesi's voice, a genuine sorrow that couldn't be ignored. "I've carried this guilt for years," Kwesi continued, her voice trembling. "Life hasn't been kind to me, and I know it's partly because of the way I treated you. I don't deserve your kindness, and I won't even ask for forgiveness, because I know how badly I hurt you. But I need you to know how sorry I am. I will spend the rest of my life trying to be better." Tears streamed down Kwesi's face now, and she looked fragile, like a woman weighed down by years of regret and hardship. She couldn't bring herself to look directly at Adama, afraid of the judgment she might see. But instead of anger, Adama's eyes were filled with a quiet strength. "Kwesi," Adama said gently, "it takes courage to admit your mistakes. I won't lie and say your words erase the pain of the past, but I do appreciate your honesty." She paused, her voice softening. "We can't change what happened, but we can choose how we move forward. I hope you find peace in living differently now." Kwesi was stunned. She had expected condemnation, perhaps even hatred, but what she received was something far greater, grace. Sobbing, she whispered, "Thank you, Adama. I will never forget this." From that day forward, Kwesi changed. The bitterness that had once defined her faded away. She became humble and kind, treating everyone around her with respect. The second chance Adama had given her was a gift she cherished deeply. Her transformation became a story of redemption, a reminder that no matter how broken someone may be, it's never too late to admit mistakes and choose a better path. And for Adama, it was proof that true strength lies not in holding on to anger, but in showing compassion and forgiveness. Adama's act of forgiveness spread far beyond the walls of her home. It didn't just change her life or Kwesi's, it inspired everyone who heard about it. People from the community, from the staff in her house to those who worked with her, couldn't stop talking about the courage and grace she had shown. Many were moved by how Adama had chosen to forgive someone who had caused her so much pain. They had never imagined that someone who had suffered so much could show such kindness. Adama's story became well known. Friends, family, and even strangers who heard about her decision couldn't help but admire her strength. They were amazed by how she had turned a painful situation into an opportunity for healing and growth. Her ability to forgive Kwesi, the very woman who had mistreated her for so long, was seen as a powerful example of true strength. Not the kind that comes from fighting or seeking revenge, but the kind that comes from showing compassion and mercy, even when it's difficult. Adama didn't seek attention for her actions. She never boasted about what she had done. Instead, she quietly lived by her values, teaching others by her example. She became a role model for many, showing them that it's possible to rise above the hurts of the past and choose peace. People began to understand that forgiving others doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger. It's a way of letting go of the past and embracing a future filled with peace and love. The ripple effect of her forgiveness reached further than anyone could have imagined. It inspired those around her to look at their own lives and relationships, to think about the grudges they held and the people they needed to forgive. In the end, Adama's act of forgiveness created a legacy, a reminder to all that true strength is found in mercy and understanding. Her story was proof that even the most painful moments could be turned into opportunities for grace, healing, and growth. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated on more inspiring content. And don't go just yet. Check out these other videos on the screen for more uplifting stories and lessons on forgiveness and strength. Click to watch now.